Well, thank you very much for having me. I'd love this to be an interactive session, so I don't mind if we actually do, you put your hands up, add questions throughout. I've been told that a number of you are either still in business or have been running businesses over the years, so hopefully the subject of offline and digital marketing is going to be of interest. But I like to look at marketing as just basically communication, and there are all sorts of different areas we can use communication in. But today, I think what I'm ideally wanting to show you is how to win your dream customers even in a crisis. And so your dream customers in this case could be for the membership committee, new members even in this scenario. I'm the past national president for Professional Speakers Australia, and even in 2020, when the events industry is in absolute free fall, we are continuing to grow our membership. So it's definitely possible. And it very much comes down to the way we communicate with one another. So how is everybody feeling? Give me a thumbs up if you're actually feeling. Give me a thumbs down if you're not feeling very good about things right now. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Positive. Well, we've got somebody who's a half and half. We've got one that's like cosy, cosy. Yeah. So it's one of those scenarios, isn't it? And we're all in Melbourne, so it's absolutely fair that we're a little bit, this way and that way about how things are going right now. And I can certainly tell you, I went for my last run this afternoon. And I tell you, I needed it after the COVID situation I've been in because I was hurting. But as of tomorrow, I guess every time I stop to walk, I'll have to put the mask on. So it's going to be incentive to keep on running. So my name's Russell Pearson. I've been running a marketing company for the last 15 years. I've been doing this for what are we leaning on, 25 years. So that's not to say I know everything about marketing. I certainly don't, but I'm absolutely happy to take any one of your questions. So feel free to hit me with any questions as we go through the presentation today. I'm going to look over here just every now and then because there's a couple of slides that I'm going to actually pull up while we're talking. The
Yep.
first of those is just to show my name so you know who I am. Is that back to front, by the way?
No, not for me.
Great, fantastic. Sometimes it mirrors on my screen, so that's fine. It's looking funny for me, but it's great for you. So, Russell Pearson, business strategist, what does that mean? That means back in the early 90s or the mid 90s, I was in brand strategy and I was in helping a lot of pharmaceuticals do their branding. I moved from that space and got very heavily into the marketing and sales pipeline area. And so I've taken management roles in marketing, management roles in sales, and now really over the last couple of years, I've put those things together and I look at the business strategy of the whole pipeline structure for a business to help them grow their customer base. So that's where I come from. That's what I do. About, let's say, about 5 years ago now, I found myself lying in bed at 1 a.m. and sort of staring at the ceiling, wondering how it got where I got. And I could hear down the hall a little girl who was screaming for her mum, and it was weird because it wasn't my little girl. In fact, it wasn't a little girl at all. I realised that it was a 96-year-old woman who was scared and screaming because she was in hospital, and so was I. So I'm lying in hospital, 1 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got here. And where I'd got to had nothing to do with hospital. That was pretty straightforward. I'd come in 7 days earlier, and they said, "You're young and fit. Go home. You should be fine." And then, a week after, I came back in a critical condition. But where I was this really unhappy place in business. And it's interesting because when I was 25 years old, and you may be able to recall, 25 years old, you're thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I had nothing at that point, so I just reached out to the closest ideal, and it was that Australian dream, which is very much like the American dream. It's other than the white picket fence, it's the family and the nuclear family, the pet, the house, the business, the car. And so within the next 2 years, I had all those things. I'd married my high school sweetheart. We had our first baby on the way. I'd started my business, and we bought our first house. And for the next 10 years, I chased that Australian dream down pretty hard. And by everyone else's accounts, I was successful. I had a successful award-winning business. It appeared on the outside like the family was fantastic. I did have three beautiful daughters, and I continue to think that they're the absolute gleam in my eye when it comes to all things that I do. I still love them completely. But what I realized is I'd hit this place where I really wasn't happy doing what I was doing. And what I ended up coming to realize is that I'd actually created this mask for myself, especially through my business, but that just affected everything else. And it was the realization of taking off that mask and what it meant for me and my freedom and the way I was able to communicate myself that made me realize that marketing and communication is completely different than what it needs to be. Everyone's out there saying that you need to be professional and appropriate and all these things. And what that's doing is it's just putting this beige, broken mask on you. And what I've realized since taking that mask off is that you can have a business that you want. You can have the clients that you love to work with. You can be doing work that you love to do and be enjoying every single day simply by being more you than you've ever been. And ideally, that's what I'm going to quickly talk about today, which is how do you become more you and therefore make your marketing and sales so much stronger so you attract the people you love working with and you do the business that you love doing rather than putting the mask on and taking the cash and building a business that's ideally for your employees rather than for yourself. So who else has started a business here? Hands up if you've been in business. Yep, quite a few of you. And hands up, your other hand, if you felt like you've ever been running it for your employees. There's a couple of people. There's just moments, isn't there, where you just go, why am I doing this? And one of the great things about what I'm going to quickly show you is that the things that you can do in your marketing will actually bring passion back into what you're doing in your business. And it's all about getting back in touch with the reason why you enjoy doing things on a day-to-day basis. It's about the things that you love. It's about being open about the things you might love to hate. And it's about doing things that challenge you in a really positive way on a day-to-day basis. So I like to think of it like berries. See, I like berries. Does anyone here like blueberries? Lots of blueberry fans. Now, I don't know if you've found, Richard's like, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know if you've ever found this, but in Melbourne, every now and then, I get, and it's usually every second, to be fair, I get a sour punnet of blueberries. Now, I might be choosing the wrong, brand or whatever it is, but every second punnet I get is sour. And I found through a couple of months that I would do this. Beautiful berries. Second punnet, sour, and I'd get rid of them. Next one, beautiful. The next one, not so good. And I got a bit sick of it. And one day I opened it up, berries were sour again. I go, do you know what? I'm not going to throw these out. I'm going to do something different. And I took the blueberry and I put it inside a raspberry. Genius, right? And I created something completely new. Now, I thought that I was actually a genius, but these things already exist. They're called raspberries.
Oh,
And raspberries are a thing. And what's interesting about the raspberry is that sometimes our businesses, whether we, whatever service or product we deliver, sometimes our customers have to use it. Whether we're an accountant or a lawyer or even a person who does marketing, they have to do it, which means that sometimes it's a tinge sour because they'd rather not. But what I found is even if you've got a business that's got a little bit of sourness to it, you can wrap your yummy gooiness, which is the raspberry, around the business and create something completely new. And so I like to think of that as actually creating raspberries. And so in your businesses, in your marketing communications, in the things that you do, you get to be a raspberry. You get to take the service, which is the blueberry, and wrap you and your personality around it, which actually makes the marketing so much stronger and so much fun for you to engage with yourselves. So when you start creating these raspberries, the people that have the same sort of personalities as you, that enjoy the same sort of things as you, start coming to you. You start attracting them into your world. And whether you're actually working as a club, as an association, or if you're working as a business, you start attracting like for like into your world. And so it's a great first step when it comes to marketing, is to actually look at yourself as this raspberry and say, who am I? And am I looking to attract like for like, and the same type of people into my world? Am I looking for the same values? Am I looking for the same things that people care about? And if that is true, if you are looking for those things, then raspberries is certainly the way to go. And so I started sharing all these things that I love in my life. Things like these girls here, who are absolutely magic. They're all sorts of fun and games. The youngest just turned 7. She just lost her 2 front teeth literally within a week. So she's removed both of them. And she's looking very gappy right now, and she can't say F's, which is hilarious. But the thing that is interesting about those girls is they help me in these all sorts of weird marketing situations. Like, for instance, a lot of people don't like marketing. And so I'll just sidetrack for a second, because I even went to the doctor, right? First time I'd met him, and I said, he asked me what I did for a living, because I knew what he did for a living. And I said, well, actually, puffed my chest up a little bit. Actually, I run a marketing company and I talk on the subject. He goes, that's funny. That's what I tell people when I go on holidays. So they leave me alone. And then I realized that, oh, wow, people actually don't like marketing as much as I do. And so what I ended up doing was taking these girls down to the 101 Flavors ice cream shop. Who likes ice cream? I bet there's a few people who don't like ice cream. I've done about 40 Rotary presentations, and there's always people in the Rotary Club that do not like ice cream. Put up your hand if you don't like ice cream. Put up your hand if you like mint chocolate ice cream. What is wrong with you people? My favourite's chocolate, right? I love chocolate ice cream. For me, it has to be pure chocolate. So not this mint chocolate stuff, right? And but that means I'm a little bit one-eyed when it comes to ice cream, because, as we know, there are literally 101 different flavours of ice cream. And, some of you will like, choc mint, some of you will like boysenberry. There's all sorts of different flavours. And so I need a little help. And so these girls come in really handy when it comes to ice cream. And so I took them to the 101 Flavours ice cream shop. And I asked the first one, the oldest, what do you want? And she said she likes chocolate ice cream. And I'm not saying she's my favourite, but, she does like the right ice cream. But the second one, she doesn't like chocolate ice cream at all, right? She only likes pink ice cream. It can be any flavour, but it has to be pink. So strawberry, raspberry, bubblegum, she likes all those as long as it's pink. And what's funny is the youngest, I hadn't taken her to the 101 Flavours ice cream shop before at all. And she's tiny. She can only just literally see over the top of this counter. All she can see is colours. And I'm like, what do you want? That one. It was the green tea sorbet. What's that about? So she's got a very delicate palate, my youngest, a green tea sorbet. But what I realised by taking him to the 101 Flavours ice cream shop is, just because I like chocolate ice cream doesn't mean everyone else does. And if I'd gone there on my own, I would have got chocolate ice cream for the whole family, and more than half of them would have been disappointed. Well, what's interesting about marketing is the same thing happens there. Everybody is out there just trying to use their own flavour of ice cream. Some people like Facebook, some people like direct mail, some people like the phone, but our customers might not like that flavour of communication. And so sometimes we need to try something new. And so my first point tonight is that when it comes to marketing, when it comes to communication, when we're trying to attract people into our world, we really need to find out what flavour of communication they prefer, and start learning, start trying something new to start using that flavour of what I often call digital ice cream, but it applies offline as well. So, what are the flavors of ice cream or communication ice cream that your future members enjoy, that your customers and prospects enjoy, and maybe it's time to just try something a little new. So, one of those things you might want to try, we're talking about online and offline, is publishing. So, here's just three examples of publishing. And for some of you, you might like writing. That's the one there with the the ink pen, and we're not really doing a lot of that these days. It's more typing. Then there's the video. You might want to record yourself. You might be good on video. Or the last one, which is a microphone, is all about podcasting. So you might want to actually start a podcast as a way of attracting people into your world. But publishing is a brilliant, absolutely brilliant way of engaging people into your world, especially when you start thinking of yourself as a raspberry, because you start talking about those things that you love. You start talking about the things that annoy you, and you start attracting like for like into your world. And by publishing on a regular basis, it has this great ability to work as practice, which means that as you practice, you get better. So if you choose to, let's say, start writing, it could be a letter to the editor, it could be an article in a blog, it could be an article in an industry publication. They're just written forms of it. As you do it on a regular basis, each week, each fortnight, even each day, if you wanted to, you will get instantly better just simply through the practice alone. Same thing happens with podcasting. I run a podcast myself called The Marketing Report, and I'm now up to, I think, with 38 episodes, and I've got a lot better. And I've also engaged a lot of people who they don't necessarily have to believe what I believe, but they're my type of audience because they enjoy listening to the way that I go about communicating what I do. So it's more about the way that you go about communicating than what you are communicating itself. So one of the new things you might want to try is a different form of publishing, but the trick is to work out what type of communication ice cream your prospects really, really like. Does anyone here publish? Hands up if you publish. There's a little bit of publishing, a little bit, maybe a couple of people. I'd recommend it's a great thing to do. Like you might even want to. Who here is active on like Facebook, for instance?
Sorry, what's that again?
Who's active on Facebook?
Yeah.
About half. So I did a presentation to a Rotary, or with a Rotary club one time, and at the end of it, a guy stood up and he goes, "Look, fabulous presentation, really enjoyed it, but I have to admit, I'm not going to be able to use any of this in my world." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And he said, "Well, I've retired." And I said, "Well, what do you enjoy doing?" And he looked a little bit, sheepish, and he was like, "I actually collect those little Matchbox cars." And I said, "What if I was to tell you that there is a community, multiple communities on Facebook right now that are talking about where to find those Matchbox cars and where to talk about collectibles?" And he said, "Oh, where's that?" And suddenly he's interested, right? And so what I'd suggest is if you're looking to try something new, especially in the digital space, find something that plays into the things you already enjoy, whether it be a type of sport or a sporting team, whether it be a hobby, whether it be something related to your industry or your interests, and you'll actually find a community there that you can start engaging with. And once you start engaging with them, you learn all the technologies, and then navigating the digital world becomes so much easier. I've certainly found that my mother does that same sort of thing where she got into genealogy and now she's like tracking people like a detective through the internet, and she can Google like the best of them. So it's just find something you really enjoy and start leaning into that. But coming back to the marketing, the marketing game hasn't changed that much. As I said, I've been doing this for 25 years, which isn't that long, but I study a lot of the stuff from like even the 1800s, and even back then it hasn't changed. It's still this. It's how do you marry people with marketing? How do you go know, like, and trust? There's a whole lot of people in there trying to shortcut the system, and they're walking up the streets basically and saying, "Will you marry me?" Or they're throwing an ad out there and saying, "Buy," and it's not working, and they're wondering why. It's because if you walked up to someone on the street and said, "Will you marry me?" they're just going to look at you strange and walk off. But if you get introduced to somebody, if you go through the process of know, like, trust, then you can actually win someone for a lifetime of business. So how do you get known? Well, you put yourself out there and you start talking about yourself. Potentially you go on a blind date, which is referral. You get a referral from someone, there's your blind date. Then suddenly you're in a dating period, you're working out, do you like each other? And I think as a business owner and a business operator, it's really important to understand that it's not just about the client liking you. You get to choose the client. And I think there's a real courting aspect to that. You know, every now and then you get lucky and on your first meeting you make a sale. But it's not till you build the trust with that prospect that you actually had a lifetime of business with them. And building trust is really what it's all about, but it's the process of working through know, like, and trust. And you know, some of the old stuff is still new. Like this used to be the pattern. So, I've got all these letters, and then, yay, I've got mail. You know, the I've got mail thing. But now it's the other way around. It's, look at all these mails. Oh, I've got a letter. I'm literally telling people in this digital age, take your newsletter that you send via email, print it on an A3 piece of paper, fold it in half, and post it to your customers. It'll be the only piece of mail they'll appreciate getting this month.
It's not a bill.
No, that's right. And it's not a bill. It's not a piece of junk mail, and it's not a statement. It's a great. The old stuff is new again. The most amazing old stuff that's new again is the campaign structure, the stuff that they literally used to do in the 1800s, where they would actually work on a campaign for 3 months before launching it. All of a sudden, you wouldn't even know. There'd be this anticipation that's building up, and suddenly things would start coming into your periphery, and then bang, there's the offer. And so that stuff's happening now more than ever, especially in the digital space, where they take what used to happen in direct mail, and they take it from a 6-month journey into 6 minutes. I might just really, really quickly show you that. Yeah, I'll show you on the board. So what used to happen in the print-based direct mail days is that someone would send you a letter. That's a letter. And on that letter, there would be an offer. And then they'd mail that out to a whole bunch of people that they'd have on a list, and people would decide whether to engage with that offer or not. But now what they have is they just have a web page that's an offer, and this is just an ad or a social media post, and you send people to this offer. And see, in those older days, the person would then take the coupon that's on the bottom of here, fill it in, put it in the post, and mail it back. And say, yes, I'm interested in that offer. And it could be a free offer, but what they've now given them is their address. So now it's all about email addresses and phone numbers. But they go here, you give them an offer, maybe it's for their email address, maybe it's for their phone number, and you give them a free report, you give them something of value. It has to be of value. But the interesting difference between the old days and the new days is that now they'll land you on a thank you page. And the thank you page is no longer just thank you for getting my download, I'll be sending it to you via email. It's the actual offer, which is a video telling you about the paid offer. So you've gone through here, they've given you something, they've already built a little bit of rapport with you because they've got something. Over here, there's a video that tells them about themselves, and they start the like process. And it's a much longer sales page. And people are converting on these pages at about 1%. People are converting on these pages about 30%. And in the old direct mail days, they would go, all right, well then I get that, I'll send out another mail piece and it'll go out through the mail. A week later, it'll land in the mailbox, and then it comes back again with a new offer. Now they go, all right, if they want this, it goes to an upsell offer, which is their big consulting piece. That happens in as long as that video takes to play, so moments. And so the old game of direct marketing that took about 6 months literally takes moments now. And so all the skills that everybody had and were doing some great work with, well, I perceive as great work in the 70s and 80s, is now killing it online. And it's exactly the same process. So that's sort of where we are right now. If anyone's got any questions, by the way, feel free to put your hand up and I'm more than happy to answer them. I know I haven't got too long. I don't want to just waffle on, but I just want to make one more point. The other thing that's probably changed more than anything is and I won't keep saying the old days, but we used to talk about solutions, right? And I think most business owners know that it's not just about solutions, right? It's not just about the solutions, it's about the problems that cover those solutions. And while I'm hidden, I'm just wiping off the whiteboard so you don't see what I'm doing. It's going to be a magic trick. So it's not a magic trick when you tell everyone about it, though, is it? So it was all about problems. So you got, all right, here's the solution, but I won't just talk about the solution. I'll talk about the problem that they have. All right, and there might be multiple problems that your solution solves. So let's give you an example, right? So the solution here is how to catch fish. All right, it's training around how to catch fish, and the problems that you solve could be. I have always wanted to catch fish. I used to be do fishing with my father when I was a child, and I really reminisce about those days, and I want to get back to it. That's one of the problems. Number two is I want to maybe teach my children to how to fish, so I want to know some stuff before I go and do that. And the bottom one might be I'm just trying to escape from my husband, right? So there's all these different options on what are the problem you're solving. But now, instead of just talking about problems that you solve, you start talking about the symptoms of those problems, which gives you so many more opportunities to start communicating with people about stuff they care about. See, about 20% of people realize that they've got a problem. They don't know that the answer is necessarily fishing, they know that they've got these problems. But of those people that have those problems, there's 80% over here that are feeling the pain, they feel the symptoms, but they don't know what the problem is. You know, down here, it's just I'm sick of listening to him, right? That's a symptom. Up here, it's, God, I wish I could get those days back again. And so it's very different, but we get these opportunities to speak to the 80% now, rather than just the 20%. So we can move people from a position, I'm feeling pain, but I don't know what it is, to bringing them to a place where we may give them something for nothing. It could be an ebook, a real book. It could be an event, something that educates them to what is the actual, what's the actual solution to that problem. So we bring them through that way. So that's one of the things that I'm definitely doing a lot more of, and something that's worth looking at is what are the symptoms of the problems that you solve. And yeah, it's just about trying something new. So just try this on, trying something new. I won't keep you too much more, but I just wanted to say that I'm challenged to do new things on a daily basis. Every day I've got new clients in new industries. There's always something that I'm trying to learn. And in life, those girls, these ones right here, challenge me more than my business life. And so I went back to that 101 Flavors ice cream shop, and this time I didn't get the double scoop cone of chocolate ice cream that I would normally get. I got a little sample cup of the green tea sorbet. You know what? It was pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question I've got. The 80% of people that have solutions, the problem we seem to be getting is being able to find out who those people are and contact them. I mean, we have a Facebook page and and we're in a few Facebook groups, but the bulk of those are populated by other Rotarians who know what we're talking about anyway. The real big problem is getting out of the Rotary bubble.
Yeah.
Can you suggest perhaps ways that we can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I've been around the traps when it comes to Rotary, so I certainly get the pieces. So the solutions Rotary, the problems that you're solving, fellowship is one of the obvious ones. Let's just take that one, right? So there's more obviously, but we'll take that. So what are the symptoms that people are feeling when the answer is fellowship? That leads them to look for fellowship. So I'm feeling lonely. And something that does lean into the age bracket of a lot of Rotary is really that a lot of my friends, colleagues are passing. So that's just an honest look at it. But there's also maybe they actually have been part of fellowship, so they know what it feels like, right? So they've been part of a sporting team.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they're in a place where maybe there's been an injury or whatever it might be. They can't play the game that they used to play, but they still want to give back. And I know that one of these other ones is I have a burning fire in me and you can't tell me to retire. So I still have so much more to give, right? But you look at the symptoms of the fellowship and you go, all right, well, where are those people? Where are the people who are feeling lonely, feeling like they don't have a place anymore, but they may have had one? And so you look at those places where let's say once you hit about, I don't know, I know that, well, I don't know what your division's really after, but I know when I was speaking previously, 45-year-olds are pretty much spot on. So if you look at a sporting area where they start to fall off at about 40, and you start talking to those communities, even if it's doing things like what I'm doing tonight, but for a sporting club, offering them the opportunity to actually find fellowship with other people who are emerging and actually not just emerging people into this new evolution, but they're actually people of substance, people who care, people who are passionate, people who are very good at what they do, which is this is I'm describing Rotarians here, right? So you introduce them to that, and I think the key is getting back to the reason that you joined yourself. And that might be as simple as actually having a poll within your own club. It's like, what are the reasons that you all joined? What were the reasons that you actually looked for something, whatever it might be? And I know probably for a lot of you, somebody invited you along, but there was a reason why they invited you along. So that's certainly a place to start. Thank you.
Thanks.
So if
I'm
anyone's
just
got any
trying to
questions,
unmute everybody and I can't find it.
I could ask one. The 101 ice cream flavours. Now, this is the interesting thing. There are some aspects of psychology that basically says people cannot choose, make a decision out of 101. Too many choices, people go into inertia. And often they'll just won't buy anything because they can't make up their mind.
yeah.
So what's your view of the ice cream shop that offers 101? Is 101 too many products that they have there, and they end up with wastage because there are some flavours that people don't like at all, hardly anybody? Should they concentrate on 51 or 21?
So there's kind of two questions there, right? One's a business strategy question, one's a marketing question. So I'll take both. But the marketing question is they've already decided before they walk in the shop, right? So they've already come up with that decision. Everyone but my 7-year-old who hadn't been there before, and she just went for the colour she liked. The the other side of the coin is should people concentrate on their products or not? I think that the opportunity is to niche, but not necessarily to the thing that you do. So, for instance, if your niche is diversity, since the 101, so your niche could be general, but within a framework of, I'll give you a great example. So I've got an organisation I work with called Safety People, which is why there's a logo on that thing at the moment, and they help recruit safety people, right? So that's what they do. So they've chosen a niche. Now, if the bottom falls out of safety, which I don't think it's going to, but if it did, their business would fall apart. Then there's the companies, but they do quite well in that niche. the companies that are broad recruitment have diversified, and so they don't really have a problem, but they don't get the same sort of cut through. They don't get the same sort of direct people coming to them. So I think that their choices, there's not one right or wrong way, but there's a third question there, which is, should you try and cater for everyone? And I say no, absolutely not. So it's deciding who you want to cater for, and if you are catering for a group of people that want diversity, then your business needs to be tuned for that. In other words, the way you actually set up your business for the 101 Flavors ice cream shop is that you're renting the ice cream and they're taking it back. You're selling what gets sold. You're the distributor. You're not the manufacturer. So if you set up a system that actually works for you in that scenario, then you should be right. Hopefully that, David, was close.
Oh, well, it comes to the question of trying to recruit people into the Rotary Club. How much do we, or how many different aspects of Rotary do you try to sell?
Perfect. That's a great question, because and that's one I've answered before at other Rotaries. You look at yourself as a group, and you look at yourself as that raspberry, and say, what do you as a group bring to the table? What are you from a personality point of view, from a values point of view? And ideally, you're going to hold sort of the similar overview values of Rotary in general, but if you bring it down tighter, there'll be a real personality to this group. And so certain types of people will work really well, certain types of people won't. And so one of the examples that I used to give is, because I used to go to breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, and dinner meetings. So even in that, there's 3 completely different markets because of when you have your meetings. So that already chops out, 2/3 of your possible target market, which is a positive thing to do, because you do want to bring it down. Still needs to be broad enough, but you need to bring it down so that you've got value for that person. So for the person who wants to meet after dinner or for dinner, then this group might be ideal. The person who wants to do it for breakfast, you send them somewhere else. But you can do that on everything, not just the time you show up. You could be like, we like to have a casual thing, or we like to have a very formal thing. We like to do work overseas. We like to do work locally. We like to, what's your way we do things around here? And potentially there's an opportunity for you to create a declaration around that, which is, we're at our best when. We're at our best when we do what. And that's a good way of saying to people what you're offering.
I'm still struggling to know how to get to these people to tell them what we're offering. I'll say, print advertising dead now? The local newspaper has probably gone digital only, I believe, now.
Well, it comes back to what I just said to David, like, who do you want? And so if you're wanting people who, had a sporting background, or actually merging from that sporting life to actually move on to something else, then you would literally advertise or go and do a talk at the local sporting clubs. I mean, you've got an area around Albert Park and sort of surrounding suburbs, so that's a great, you're locked into that space already. But I would be certainly looking for people, so other organisations around you who have members in them, where it's not a competition, although it'll be kind of a competition for time. But you all have different purposes, so you can go to those other places where people enjoy fellowship, where they actually enjoy putting themselves into the organisation, and you can present yourself and the opportunity that your Rotary Club delivers. Mm-hmm. So if it's not sport, it could be any other type of organisational backbone. It could be the Librarians Association. It could be speakers in their associations. It could be, and they're all over the place. Meetup is a really good place to look.
There are a lot of focus groups too.
Say that again?
Local focus groups we have.
Yep, absolutely. And there'll be all sorts of interest groups as well. And Meetup is one maybe to look at, because Meetup will show you different events that are happening locally, and it's going to be a disaster zone at the moment. We all know that because they're usually about these outdoor events or these events out of the house. But there are groups locally with interest groups, digital groups. Like I said to that guy who was looking for a miniature car collecting club, they are online as well. And so you're looking for things that match what value you give. So you really need to look at the value you provide for people, and that's the problems that you solve that I was talking about here before. What are the problems?
We did identify some local business group organisations.
Yep.
Just back in February.
Well,
we've still got them there to go to, but their meetings have been kiboshed just as badly as ours have. But we work on targeting them. Yeah.
And that's some of the try something new too, because what I've found that works better than the format that we've done tonight, and while I think it's fantastic because I was speaking all the time, the format that I really like in this surrounding is a discussion group. So you might only have 10 people online or 20 people, but you'll have a discussion topic and someone needs to be reasonable at facilitation, and they can take the conversation out there. Like I'll throw it to David and then I'll say, Jeremy, what do you think about that? And like it'll move the conversation around, and it becomes this really fantastic catalyst that happens on a weekly basis for discussion and for all those things that really Rotary talks about, which is, what is important? What are we trying to achieve? The fellowship side of things. So the opportunity is even here on a digital space, and I understand that there's fatigue around using the technology and we all want to get face to face. But if you step out of that and go, right, well, how can we do this really well? There are definite ways to do that. And through COVID, I started a discussion group with people I'd never met before, and they became like family, and they started businesses together, and they ended up having opportunities that none of them ever would have thought they would have, and it only took 12 weeks. We just caught up every week. I just made the space available, and I facilitated the conversation, and it was magic.
And Zoom provides a great window for people to join now, try before you buy, no obligation, free of charge, very little to no effort. I mean, if they've got to get dressed up and they've got to come out and they've got to buy dinner and to hear a speaker and try Rotary, that's quite a commitment. Whereas Zoom is little to no commitment to come along, hear a great speaker, whether it's someone professional like yourself or someone from interstate or international, to provide a really top-notch professional speaker and have a night with corporates and businesses in our area. I think it's a great opportunity.
And that's something, you have such an opportunity, and Mark, you're spot on. The international opportunity you have right now, you can get like world-class speakers. I mean, mind you, the speakers in Australia are pretty good, but you can get world-class global speakers who are, for some reason, willing to get up in the middle of the night to talk to an international audience. And they will come on here and just show you a perspective that you haven't seen. Imagine, here's just one throwing it out there, right? Just to make this more interesting. Imagine if you decided that you were going to do a 6-week series, and every week you're going to have someone from a different country, completely different country, come in and actually talk to you about the situation that's going on in their part of the world, just to broaden the scope on things. You'd have such an interesting conversation. And as long as it's a conversation rather than a presentation. I've got this thing too, if you want it. It's a masterclass that talks about branding, but that actually comes into some of these things, into the Rotary Club, which is different ways that you can attract people, different ways of attract people, bring people into your world. But yeah, there's such limitations to what's happening right now, and I particularly don't like the mask piece. I've got a lot of masks today, but the opportunity for me now to have a conversation on a global scale is incredible. From literally my own garage, right? I am now with very small amounts of technology here. I'm speaking internationally with all sorts of different people and just making some incredible friendships that I would never have had before. Now I understand they're not necessarily going to be ideal for your group, but just as a point of difference, rather than going, all right, well, same old, let's do something that we can't do face to face. You could get it, I'm not saying go politics, but you can actually get international politicians coming on. Things like, really interesting topics.
These people you've had dealings with internationally, have they approached you or you approached them?
Both. It's usually through my podcast. So, yeah, so and that's another example. So on Facebook, there are groups for people who do podcasts. And so I joined a couple of those, especially coming into this environment. And I put the word out there, who talks on this subject that's interested in maybe coming on the podcast. And I didn't just take whoever came at me, because I had quite a few, but I had some conversations with them, and 3 of them have joined my podcast over the time, and they've been brilliant. And then they've had me on their podcast, and it's just been eye-opening.
Well, any more questions, anybody? Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Russell, for coming along, virtually coming along. And it certainly opened my eyes on a few things, but I'll have a look at your masterclass, but I'm still not quite sure how we make that initial contact. And I mean, so I'll work on it more.
No, name your problems, and then make a list of where they are.
I have used Meetup, by the way, with the bushwalking club I'm in. One of the problems we've found with that is that we've got about 120, 130 members who actually bushwalk when we can, but we've got over 1,000 people on the Meetup site, and therefore 870 of them we've never ever seen. And I don't think they're...
This is the essence of marketing, Richard. This is the essence of marketing. So you've got 1,000 people over here, and you're only going to convert 10% to an engagement, right? So you get your 100, and then of those, you're only going to convert maybe 10% to new members. So it'd be nice to have 10 new members.
Yeah, I think we have got a few members through them, but it's hard to tell.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, they always talk. They always talk about the numbers in business, and that what you're measuring matters, and the question is whether you're doing it ad hoc or not. And so the only way to do this really as a proper marketing campaign is to go, all right, these are the ways that we're actually going out. We're actually saying how many people are in this target market, how are we actually moving them to the next step, and do we even have a next step? Like, do you have a sales process, right? And then knowing how many people pass through each of those pieces, and then looking at the pieces and saying, am I happy with that conversion rate? And if you're not, fix it.
Okay, thank you very much again.
No problem at all, Richard. Thank you very much, and thank you all, because I know that you all do great work in Rotary, and I have been around the traps for a while, and one day I will be joining when I find just that little bit more time in my life.